You are now listening to Eldar Q. More than sound, only on EldarQ.
I just pulled up at her spot, pulling up in my wheel, pulling up at her spot, pulling up in my wheel. I pull up with the baddest bitches, pulling up in my car. I pull up with the finest women, getting out of my car. I just pulled up at the spot, pulling up with a freak, pulling up at the spot, pulling up with a freak. I got a bitch in the back, getting loose at the club. I got some bitches in the back, getting loose at the club.
EldarQ.
I just woke up in her apartment, pulling off in my wheel. Waking up in her apartment, pulling off in my wheel. I got a whole lot of bitches that I hardly ever call. I got a whole lot of women that I never even call. I just pulled up in her crib, pulling up to her spot, pulling up to her crib, pulling up at her spot. I pull up with different women, pulling up at the club, pulling up with different bitches. When I pull up at the club, I pull up to her crib, pulling off in my wheel. I just pulled up to her crib, pulling up in my wheel. I pull up to her crib, pulling up at the spot. I pull up at her crib. When I pull up at the spot, I pull up to her crib, pulling off in my wheel. I just pulled up to her crib, pulling up in my wheel. I pull up to her crib, pulling up at the spot. I just pulled up at her crib. When I pull up at the spot, I just came home from her crib, pulling up in traffic. Coming home from her crib, pulling up in traffic. I pull up with the baddest bitches. When I pull up in my wheel, I pull up with the finest women. When I pull up in my wheel, I got some badass bitches getting down at the spot. I got some fine ass women getting down at the spot. I pull up at the spot, hopping out with a model. Pulling up at the spot, hopping out with a model. I got a bitch on the other side of town. I just pulled up in her crib. When we hit the club, we get down. When I pull up in her crib, I got a bitch in the back, getting loose in the club. Getting loose in the back of the club. I hit the block in the wheel, where we ride. Hitting blocks in the wheel, where we ride. Hitting blocks in the wheel, riding out in traffic. We hit the block in the wheel when we ride out in traffic.
EldarQ.com.
More than sound, only on EldarQ.com.
More than sound. EldarQ.com.